Hey all, here OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the Baseus Eli Sport 1s. These are a pair of open-style TWS wireless buds geared for sports, and they serve as an alternative to the Soundpeats Go Free 2s, as well as the Anker Soundcore Aerofits that we've also seen in the past, meaning that they're not going to stick as far into your ear canals and provide isolation as well as noise cancellation, but rather this is the opposite. The drivers actually sit right on the outside, giving you more awareness of what's happening around you, so you can still walk down a street, for example, and be aware of the traffic. But again, if you're traveling a lot on planes or if you're in an office with lots of fan noises, it's not going to necessarily block that out as a result of this type of design, which is also a competitor to bone conduction technology. Although these are technically still having drivers, they're calling them air conduction. And again, having a hook built on in, meaning that they're going to be a little bit more snug if you are moving and jogging around, with slightly larger drivers as well at 16.2 millimeters. And what's interesting about the Baseus design here is they have a detachable cable, aka neckband, that can provide even more snugness as well as preventing them from getting lost if they ever fall out. And otherwise, you're rated for up to 30 hours with a battery case, around 7.5 hours of continuous music listening, and do have a low latency mode as well if you are doing things like gaming or watching back videos, including quick charge and multi-point support, so it can pair with two devices at the same time, including a phone and a computer, and you can switch back and forth based on whatever device is playing back audio. So it comes in a couple of colors as well, including a more stealth-like black that you saw in the images there, but the one we have in front of us is more of this white and yellow appearance. It's using a pretty up-to-date Bluetooth 5.3 chip, although it is just the standard codecs of SBC and AAC, so you don't get support for hi-fi codecs including LDAC or aptX lossless, although I think that mostly makes sense for a sports pair of buds. You aren't necessarily sitting down and being extremely picky about the nuances of the music. It's just something that's loud enough and with good enough fidelity to get you energized as you are moving around. Further down below here, we have just a quick start guide, USB Type-C cable for charging, in addition to the aforementioned optional lanyard strap. And last but not least, you also get some stickers, very similar to other charging tech that we've seen from Baseus in the past, so giving you a little bit more customization and attention to detail. Closer look at the battery case itself. It has this transparent acrylic plastic on the top, so you can easily spot if the buds are inside or not, and it has a fairly slim profile, so it's relatively easy to slide into pockets. I like that the port is also accented in orange, giving it a little bit more character. That being said, the dimensions on the front are going to be a little bit larger compared to conventional wireless buds, just because of the wing design still has to fit into the case. That being said, the hinge again feels quite stable, and once you pop it open, they automatically turn on and start to pair with your device, so it's pretty quick. And the buds are otherwise held into place magnetically, pretty secure. Taking a closer look at their design, it again is constructed primarily out of plastic, although they claim that the wing is made out of a titanium frame, so it should be quite durable on the inside, although it slightly flexes when you're popping them on, a bit weighted on the side as well to prevent them from falling loose, and again the surface here is touch sensitive. Change the volume higher or lower, as well as tap 3 times to skip tracks. And otherwise, on the very back, we have just the 16mm driver, as well as the charging contacts. This part is also crafted out of metal, and it all feels quite robust from a build perspective. And by the way, the weighted end cap can also accommodate the aforementioned lanyard strap. Interestingly, it's kind of a twist mechanism, so you just pop it in like so, and afterwards you give it a bit of a twist to lock it into place. It feels decent, although I think maybe a magnetic design might have been a little bit more elegant to attach and detach quickly. That being said, it definitely works. And what's also interesting is it looks like there's even a secondary slot located on the edge linked to that second cavity, so maybe it's for some added bass. I'll also mention that the strap has kind of an interesting centerpiece, so you can hang it, for example, on your wrist like a wristband, which would look something like this. In fact, they're even advertising it in some of their product ads as another way to carry that strap, although I think maybe in the future generation revision, if they also made perhaps a lanyard slot on the battery case so you can directly hang it like a keychain, that could be nice to have as well if you want to carry it around with the case. And taking a quick look at the companion app, which is the same one found for their other products including power banks that we've seen previously. It works with both Android and iOS, connects pretty quickly using Bluetooth and location services. Afterwards, you can check out the percentage remaining for the left, the right side, as well as the case, and you can also turn on the low latency mode, as well as a low frequency enhancement mode, aka a bass boosted mode. If you want to further amplify things like drum beats, for EDM music for example, you'll be able to hear the impact more, and there's also going to be a more specific EQ selection button that you can press on with these very avant-garde looking representations. You can also find another bass boosted profile, which is quite similar to the one from the outside, which is a little bit repetitive, but you have that choice, including one for theater if you're watching movies. There's also a quote-unquote hi-fi mode, although again, there is no true hi-fi codec support, so it's just going to be a little bit more clean sounding there. You can also find a DJ profile, as well as a fashion profile, one for jazz, and further down here we have also treble enhance for higher frequency notes, original, as well as classic rock. So overall, I would say some of these labels are perhaps a little unusual now that I think about it, just because things like fashion isn't really a genre in the typical sense. So perhaps they should switch these out for more conventional labels just to make it a bit more intuitive, but it does make a subtle difference on the sound depending on, again, the type of music that you're listening to. You can play around with it, as well as enter a custom profile that you can set up as your own name and then change the frequency sliders yourself if you want that level of granularity, although there is no automatic way of setting that using a hearing test like on some other more flagship grade headphones that we've seen in the past. But overall, it works as intended. And you can also tap on gesture setting to customize what the taps will correspond to. Again, double by default, allowing you to play and pause your music, but you can also turn and activate the voice assistant instead, as well as kind of rearrange what these gestures will do. Up top here, you can also locate the buds just by tapping on call L or call right, and that will basically ring a alarm using the highest volume level that's possible on the buds, as you can hear there, and kind of tap on found if you've located them. Not quite the same thing as having perhaps AirTag or GPS on the buds themselves, but still is a thoughtful addition. And there's also an interesting FNQ section as well, where you're able to locate some instructional videos about how to access different commonly used questions. A bit quirky, but at least it is functional enough, and the app is relatively straightforward. Now, moving on to the sound quality and performance, the overall profile when it comes to these large drivers are definitely a bit more bass heavy. Definitely will feel that impact of a drum beat if you're listening to pop, EDM, rock music, and they are definitely very energetic. So for things like sports and exercise, I think they actually fit that intended use case quite well. They get sufficiently loud, definitely don't sound tinny or too thin because of the larger drivers. The mids and trebles, I would say, also sound good, but compared to true hi-fi and more audiophile-centric buds, which have a higher res Bluetooth chip as well as dual and triple drivers, can squeeze out more details in some of those regions, especially in trebles, I would say. But it's just something to keep in mind if you are an audiophile and super picky, that these type of open air conduction / bone conduction headphones aren't necessarily intended for that, but out of this category as a whole, I would say the sound is already quite pleasant, especially when paired against the aforementioned Aerofits as well as the Go Free 2s. I would say they are pretty much right in line, which is for the most part not too problematic because I like the sound for exercise and workouts on those two buds as well, and for the most part you are getting a similar experience, but with Baseus the price point is going to be slightly more affordable in addition to having a slightly more colorful design and that lanyard detachable design, which is also missing on those other two products. The connectivity with the phone was also quite strong, around 10 meters to 33 feet range, so as long as I was within the proximity of a room or so, I could kind of walk around freely, didn't really get disconnected either, and it paired quite quickly as well. And last but not least, I'll just mention that the fit, in my opinion at least, was rather snug and comfortable, even though, again, the end cap is a little bit larger to accommodate the detachable cable design. Overall, the silicone coating still makes it quite soft, and part of the weight is supported on the outside of your ear as you are popping them on. So for a couple hours of continuous music listening, I didn't feel like they were too stressful or hurt either after wearing them. So still fairly good in terms of ergonomics, I would say. And that is more or less it as far as our quick hands-on review of these Baseus Eli Sport 1s. Again, they are the first open design buds from Baseus, marketed more for sports and exercise, and as aforementioned, they have a very colorful design that kind of stands out from the crowd of more mundane black or white. The sound quality is also nice and punchy with sufficient volume to get sucked into your music as you're exercising, comfortable for just casual wearing. And what's good is there's very minimal distortion or static in the background, even if I was playing and pausing the music. So the Bluetooth chip as well as the drivers here have been fairly well optimized, I would say, from Baseus' side. So you can check out more details if you are interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That was a quick look at the Baseus Eli Sport 1.